Hello, folks. Welcome to the Crime Dog Live Stream. Your host, Johnny Fiorica, retired detective with the Rochester, New York Police Department after serving 30 years. I work uniform patrol. I worked undercover narcotics. I work street investigations. I was a hostage negotiator for over 20 years, closing out my career with the fine men and women of the ATF. That is alcohol, tobacco, and firearms. It was a federal task force where our main focus was violence and gun trafficking throughout these great United States of America. You know who's sitting next to me. He is a legendary street cop. He's a 22-year retired detective, also with the RPD. He's an undercover cop, SWAT team member, homicide detective, David Simpson. Welcome to the live show, brother. We got some technical difficulties with David, but until he comes back online, folks, we got a great show for you today. Just like our super producer Danny Agnew makes us do, I got a tease, right? So usually it's an hour-long show, give or take how long mine and David's small little brains can stay focused. But we're going to talk about Trump bringing in the National Guard and all the three-letter agencies, that's the FBI, the DEA, the ATF, into Washington, D.C. to curb violence and crime in general. We're also going to touch a little bit about juvenile crime, especially in D.C., because there were some crazy stats that we picked up over the last couple of days regarding juvenile crime. And we're going to talk about how that correlates with the crime that goes on in New York State, in our community in Rochester, New York, and also a lot of the juvenile stuff that goes on also. We're also going to touch upon a little bit about that rock star, Jeanine Pirro, who is heading all this. She is the U.S. attorney in Washington, D.C., heading up everything for President Donald J. Trump. So we'll see. I mean, we're going to have a good show today. I don't know if my main man, David's there. He looks frozen on the screen, but I don't know if his audio is good. David, you there, brother? Nope. David's offline. Listen, folks, let me kick some stats out until David could figure out what's going on relative to his link. So here's the deal. We started this conversation, David and I, a couple of days ago. You know, David and I and our producer Danny are always in a constant text string, keeping each other familiar about what's going on local, state, and federally. We started bumping around some stats, and even before Trump sent in the National Guard, here is some crazy stats. I'm just going to read them from my phone, right? Why not? It's live TV. So DC carjackings, right, where you physically get robbed, usually robbery, folks, obviously, you know, right? It's using a weapon to forcibly steal property from another. So DC carjacking arrests, 333 suspects, right? 56% of the carjackings in DC were under the age of 18. 56%. So over half, which is a big number, were under the age of we're under the age of 18. And these were busts and arrests since 2023. Unbelievable. That is a stat that is crazy. Let me talk about, for those listening to us, what we have in New York State, just to do a little analogy here. And what we have in New York State, we have the criminal justice reform, which was pretty much dropped in 2020, right? January 2020, during the cover of darkness, the New York State Assembly and our legislatures in New York State, the Dems, who, like David always says, nobody loves a criminal like a Democrat. I always steal that line. They ended up passing the law for criminal justice reform. However, the raise the age law was passed in 2018. What does that mean, raise the age? When I was a cop on the streets, ripping and running, Clinton section, which was Joseph Avenue, Clinton Avenue, Conkey, Hudson Avenue, the finer parts of town. When I was a young cop, if I were to arrest a juvenile, the threshold at that point was 16 years old. Now keep that in mind, 16 years old. Raise the age, what the Dems said is, oh, that's too young. You should give these kids a break. We should raise the age. This is what New York State says, raise the age. When you hear that term, it's to 18 years old. So what does that mean? That means when I was out ripping and running on the streets, like I said, a juvenile was a juvenile until they actually turned 16 years old. And I mean 16. So the day before their birthday, juvenile laws applied to that individual, to that suspect that I arrested. The day they turned 16, they were classified as an adult. Now, of course, they never got sent to the adult portions of the jail. The local jail does have cordoned off areas for juveniles and people that are their same age. Raise the age really, really sucks for citizens in New York State and for those that have been victimized by older individuals that are 16, 17, 18 years old. It's disgusting. They should have never done it, but this is the liberal state that we live in. And now you have a liberal, well, it's a district, right? It's the District of Columbia. It's not a state, but you have a lot of crime going on in DC. You've always had a lot of crime in Washington, DC, no matter what. But here's the thing. Here's another interesting stat. I'm going to look down, so I apologize. I'm not looking into the camera, but juvenile offenders and crimes against persons, right? From 2020 to 2024, literally, it's doubled. Literally, crimes have doubled because what you're seeing is in New York State, just like a lot of other liberal cities may not use a term like criminal justice reform or bail reform. They use other terms. However, at the end of the day, what it comes down to is they all have similar policies that cater to the criminals. Specifically, they have raised the ages in most liberal states and liberal cities. It's disgusting. It's unbelievable, the stats that we're talking about here. At the end of the day, what happened was Trump said enough is enough with this crime in Washington, D.C. And I know you folks know that, listen to us and follow the crime stats and all the other stuff that I'm kind of spitting out right now. Obviously, you know, Washington, D.C. is not a state. Washington, D.C. Is the District of Columbia. It is technically almost like a city where they explain that the Congress peoples that work in DC are almost like your local city council if they were a city like Rochester, right? So at the end of the day, Washington DC has had crime up the yin yang. Danny, throw that stat up there again if you can. It was up there quickly. So 2024 capital murders in the District of Columbia, Washington, D.C. Look at them throughout the world. Per capita, per 100,000 people, capital murder rates 27.4. Look at it in London, 1.1, Madrid, 0.96. It is unbelievable. So if you look at this murder rate comparatively throughout the entire world, it is disgusting. And then if you look at it, what's up, David? You there? I don't know if you can hear.
For the time
So David,
being.
yeah, we've been talking we talked about the juveniles. Now we're just jumping into the Washington D.C. crime rates. So folks, if you're looking at the screen right now, capital homicide rates in D.C. comparable. Look at all the per 100,000 people homicide rates. 41 persons per 100,000 people get shot and killed or get killed in some way in D.C. comparatively to all the way down to look at Mexico City as 8 per 100,000. So this is some of the reasons why President Trump has brought the National Guard. And I always say, when you hear me say three-letter agencies, we're talking about the DEA, the FBI, the ATF, right? That's what we call the three-letter agencies. At the end of the day, crime, David, is out of control in D.C.
Yeah, I'm all for the president being strong and doing something to help the citizens of Washington, D.C., because he can, due to it not being a state, and the powers that be, Democrats, won't be strong on crime there. So it's good to see that he's going to do it.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. And he has appointed, Dave, you want to pop her pics? I'm sorry, Dan, you want to pop her pics up? Jeanine Pirro, who was literally in law enforcement. She was the top dog in.
Yeah, this pisses me off, Johnny. We got to talk about her because
Okay, go ahead.
this is No, because they got these little dweebs that get on the air and say, "Oh, they hired a Fox TV host to be in charge and run the district attorney's office, the federal prosecutor's office." Yeah, she was a district attorney for 30 years in Westchester
Yeah.
County,
Yep.
which has 1 million people in it, which is bigger than DC. And she was the district attorney for
Yeah.
11 years in
Yeah.
Westchester County. So to say that she's a Fox TV host, these Democrats like to do that, is insulting and is attacking a woman that has a very decorated resume in law enforcement,
Mhm.
prosecuting violent crime. And to say she's a Fox TV host is so disingenuous. So that's my soap opics.
No, I totally agree with you, David. She's a rock star. She knows what she's doing, and I encourage anyone to Google Judge Jeanine Pirro or Jeanine Pirro.
And she was a
Yes.
judge.
Hmm.
I mean, a
I
judge, prosecutor, and a district attorney. Who else would be more qualified? Show me that person.
yeah, they're you're right, David. There's definitely
What
not.
our district attorney or our federal DA in Buffalo in the Western District of New York? All right, look that person up resume and compare that to Miss Pirro's. It'll be an NBA All Star versus a nobody.
A CYO athlete from St. Anthony's. So yeah, I totally don't disagree,
Right.
David. She literally has a resume where she's overqualified for this job. She is, like we said, a rock star. Sidebar note,
Way.
I got to tell you this though. I don't know if Kim DeRosa or anybody from the GOP is listening right now, from the local GOP, Republican Party locally, but she was originally supposed to run against that filth bag Hillary Clinton for New York State senator. So, and I'm not slandering Judge Jeanine, but she didn't. She had some skeletons in her closet, not because of her, but her ex-husband was
Yeah.
a contractor. And everyone knows that you can't be a contractor in New York, New Jersey, Connecticut without having some kind of ties to organized crime.
Connection.
Yeah. So he had some ties to organized crime. Of course, the Democrats went after her for that. Had nothing to do with her stellar, impeccable criminal career as an attorney. She was unbelievable. But unfortunately, what they did was they solid her and bloodied her up. And she didn't end up running against Hillary because she would have been great as a senator for New York State.
And once again, someone that absolutely does not need to even work in any capacity. She's well into retirement age. She's worth a ton of money. She could ride off in the sunset. You know, she does this because she has a passion for it.
Mm-hmm.
And she's one of the few people in quote politics that actually wants to help law-abiding citizens. And for them to vilify her and refer to her as a Fox TV host,
Yeah.
again, just shows what jerks Democrats truly are. They are a
Right.
cesspool of filth.
Yeah, they definitely are. I'll tell you a quick story about her too. So what I was saying about Kim DeRosa and the GOP, if they're listening, what was cool, and I don't remember what year it was, but it was early 2000s. Whenever she was running, Jeanine, she was running against. She was supposed to run against Hillary, like I was saying. The GOP brought her up a couple times to Rochester to speak at their big $10,000 plate dinner that they used to have here at the Hyatt. The cool part was I was contracted by the GOP in Monroe County to be her personal driver, like it was a personal protection detail. And you'll enjoy this, David. I got specific orders from them. They're like, listen, she's very independent. When you pick her up from the airport, meet her at the gate. Don't ask to take her luggage. Don't open the door for her. Don't do any of that. I'm like, okay. She gets off the plane. First thing I do is I greet her. I say, hi, Mrs. Pirro, Johnny Furica, RPD. I'm a detective. I'm here to show for you and drive you around, be your personal protection while you're in Rochester. Can I get your bag for you? She says, oh, no, thanks, honey. It's okay. I got it. Okay. First and foremost, you know I was going to ask to grab the bag. Right. That's number one. Number two, we get out to my truck. I had a Tahoe at the time and was parked outside the airport. Walk out the front doors of the airport. What do? You know exactly what I did. I opened a door for her.
Pop that door.
Pop that door. I went totally against what I was told how to treat her. Grabbed her. I mean, I opened the door and I offered my hand. She's like, she grabbed my hand because she's a little shorty,
Yeah.
and she got up into the truck, closed the door, and she turned to me. She goes, "Well, you're a good old Italian boy, aren't you?" And I started laughing. I said, "Listen, I gotta be honest with you, Judge Jeanine. I was told not to do any of that, but that's not the way I was raised. I have to treat like I was supposed to treat you, you know." And she was a great person. She is just as genuine on that 10-minute drive from the airport to the hotel. And every place I went with her, she was an absolute sweetheart. She was exactly as you see on TV. She has the great personality. She's a great person. She's kind, she's caring, and she's a pit bull. She's got all the buttons, David. She hits all the buttons.
She's a rock star. I mean,
Yeah.
as usual, Trump hires the best.
Yeah, no doubt. Hey, Dan, you want to pop that tweet of the week? Let's do the tweet of the week. Here we go, folks. This is
little
what
dweeb.
this little tweet.
I like to beat him with that microphone.
He's by the way, sidebar, I could be stuck on a desert island for 47 years. I still wouldn't be able to fit in this kid's pants. Anyways, so here's the tweet of the week, folks.
I don't think my 9-year-old could fit in his pants.
David Hogg. For those that don't know David, he got his fame because he was a student at the Parkland shooting many years ago. Unfortunately for our guys, exactly Occupy.
He's a goof.
So, anyways, David Hogg got his fame because he started speaking out about guns and blah, blah, blah because of Parkland. I'm not blah, blah, blah in Parkland. I'm blah, blah, blah in David Hogg. So he has risen up through the ranks of the Democratic Party and the upper echelon.
Of course he has.
So David Hogg,
star.
David Hogg, he tweets that DC is a Trump experiment for the authoritarian power grab. Trump is threatening federal takeover of police in blue cities. It doesn't end with DC. Danny, do you click the video or you got him speaking? Okay. So David got, if you click on that link and click, he goes on and on about how, David, this is where I know we were talking off camera. He goes on and on. He's talking about crime is down in DC. This is BS that Trump is doing. That crime is down. And he starts to try to spit stats, right? And then share with the audience what you talked to me about prior to coming on air. So you're talking about how the Dems or the cops in the police department in DC were flubbing the numbers, right, David?
Oh yeah. Listen, everyone knows that's in law enforcement, especially in an urban setting where crime stats, since the time I came on the job, stats were the end all for commanders and supervisors within a jurisdiction, the department as a whole or sections. Everybody knows that the stats get juked. Attempted assaults become reckless endangerments. One robbery that's really 6 robberies becomes one robbery and at one.
Yeah, so David's having some technical difficulties tonight. That will all be rectified next week because David's going to have some new equipment at his house. But anyways, David's talking about juking the stats. What he's talking about, and we had a lieutenant, and he knows who he is. I hope he's watching. He was a shithead. He could literally make a stat be positive or negative. That's what a scumbag he was when he worked with the RPD. But what David was talking, David, there you are again. You're talking about juking the stats. I was explaining to our audience that the juking of the stats, what you're talking about is you move the numbers to where they are. So instead of it being an assault, which is either a misdemeanor or a felony, they, like you're saying, David, juking the stats with, they make it something like a harassment, a violation.
Right. You can reduce violent crime by just reclassifying things, and you can take multiple crimes and make them one. I mean, everyone knows it goes on.
Right.
So to refer to stats as the end all, again, what we always say is what you look out your window is the truth.
Right.
When you're walking down the street, how you feel is the truth.
Mm-hmm. And
there's been multiple times that the Metro Police Department in Washington has juked the numbers. As recently as 2025, a major in the 3rd district was allegedly changing crime statistics to downplay serious offenses. So the numbers are BS.
Yeah, they're BS, David. When we first started doing the pod, months into it, and I'm going to hold it up for the audience. You're not going to be able to see it, but let me see if I can do a little glare. So the Washington Examiner did a study. It was the fourth quarter, which would be fall, the fourth quarter 2023 crime report. And what they found, they were the first ones to report on this. And David and I have been talking about this for about 18 months, about a year now, a little over a year. I'm sorry. I take that back. A little over me, David. We're coming a year and a half. Oof. But anyways,
Veterans.
what the Washington Examiner said was blue cities, Democratic states were flubbing their numbers. They were not
Of course.
reporting to the FBI the true numbers because they wanted to keep them down for political reasons. And literally, if you Google the Washington Examiner fourth quarter stats in 2023 in their crime report, everybody, if you don't know this, the uniform crime code, what you get sent out, FBI takes all the reporting from every district in the area, every state, every city sends the numbers to the FBI. They crunch the numbers and they come out with their uniform crime report, their UCR, and they tell you exactly what all the stats are for murder, for rape, for robbery, for burglary, for petty larceny, for assaults, all that stuff, and they come out with them like, oh, crime is down, look at this, crime is down. What they found out, the Washington Examiner, was no. And where they found them to be lying in all the liberal cities like San Francisco, Los Angeles, New York, all the other cities that were Republican or states that were Republican were giving them the real stats, and the blue states, David, were lying to them, just like that one guy
Yeah.
was lying.
Right. And it's no different than, businesses falsifying,
Cooking the books.
how much revenue they've made and
Mm-hmm.
cooking the books. Right. It goes on in every industry, but don't think that law enforcement's and no different. How many times have we been at a scene and been like, isn't this another jurisdiction's job? Didn't this
Right.
happen in the town, not the city? We're doing that so we don't get another violent crime on our books.
Right. Yeah. And, the thing is, like we were talking about, cooking the books and all that other stuff, it's all BS. And when you talk about police statistics, it's no different in Rochester. It used to happen in Rochester too. Don't ever think that we're telling you lies. They cooked when that crime stat, that bullshit that went on. It was all bullshit. Go
Right.
ahead.
So I have one quick story. I won't mention names. So this one time in homicide, I had a case of a person that was no longer, we still haven't found him. He's missing. And he was a city resident. His phone pinged in the city, meaning he was last known to be in the city till his phone went bye-bye. But the last time he was visually seen was in Greece, New York, which is a town outside Rochester. And so basically there's a huge argument. And even though that everyone knew that he was no longer with us because of something that happened in the city due to the phone evidence and where
Right.
he was from and where his car was seen, because visually the last time he was seen alive was in Greece. It was a Greece job. It was
Yeah.
not going to be a city job.
Right. They wanted to take one murder off the RPD books. That's like throwing a deck chair off the Titanic. You ain't going to stop it from sinking.
Hey, one murder is one murder.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you, David, at the end of the day, Danny, you want to throw that stat up about that DC commander? Here's one for us. DC police commander. So this is where Trump
That might be
is.
the guy.
Yeah. So the DC police commander is suspended and accused of changing crime statistics. What David and I have been talking about for the last 10 minutes is what this guy did. And by the way, this wasn't 5 years ago. This wasn't 7 months ago. This was literally, he got suspended. I think it was July 18th. So about a month ago or 3 weeks ago, this shitbag was cooking the books. So the stats didn't look that bad. Oh, I wonder why. Muriel Bowser, David, the mayor of DC.
Right. But I don't even blame the guy because he's in a position where all they want to know at those meetings is that crime went down. So
Right.
he's under total pressure to show anyhow there's been a reduction in crime. So, I'm not saying I agree with it, but I understand it.
Yeah. Yeah, D-Wall was just talking. David, you tweeted about that. I don't know if you could see the comment at the bottom of the
Yeah, I can
page.
see it.
Yeah, it's a Metropolitan Police Chief.
That was terrifying.
She got
That
asked a
was
question
terrifying.
live, and they're like, "Well, because they were asking."
Chain of command.
Yeah, they were asking the DC police chief, who was in front of the microphone at the time. Muriel Bowser, the DC mayor, was behind her. And they were asking the police chief of DC, okay, now the feds are in charge. What is the chain of command? Meaning, who's in charge? Is it going to be the feds, one of the three-letter agencies,
Right.
or is it going to be
Valid question, right, Johnny? That's
right,
a valid question.
right? Going to be the DC? Who's in charge? David, what did she say?
She was like, "What's that mean?" Or she was like, "I
What
don't
do you mean
understand.
by
What's that
that?
mean?" And the
Yeah,
mayor quickly jumped in.
yeah. The mayor
Was it the
jumped
mayor
in.
or the police chief that jumped in?
It was the police chief that was asked the question. She
Oh
bowed out
yeah,
of the
and the mayor
microphone.
jumped in.
Yeah, Muriel Bowser jumped in. She goes, "Well, according to the executive order signed by President Trump, the feds are in charge, and then we're going to be in communicado and communication." I'll tell you this too about Muriel Bowser. She is such a scumbag because she literally goes in front of the camera and says one thing, and then does podcasts like no one's going to see it, and says the exact opposite. She bashes Trump on a podcast, but
Why?
literally an hour later, she was on a main news show going, okay, yeah, we're cooperating with the feds. Unbelievable.
Right.
David, let me ask you
Well,
a
I
question.
mean that place. No, but that place was also the home of Marion Barry, I believe, right? The crack pipe
Oh
mayor.
yeah. He got with the hooker in
I
the
mean,
hotel
he got
room.
reelected in that place, right? Hotel, hooker, crack
Crack.
gets reelected.
Man.
Crack.
Wow, man. So David, let me ask you a
So it
question.
doesn't surprise me.
Don't you see do you see the analogy of the Democrats? They're against border security. They want to flood our borders with all these unknown illegal aliens coming to our country, right? We talk about 80-20 issues. Our audience knows what an 80-20 issue is, right? 80% of Americans are for it, 20% are against it. The border is one of those 80-20 issues. 80% of the Americans say, yeah, we should have a secure border. And I think it's even higher now. People may disagree with the methods of getting them out. I'm not talking about that. I'm just talking about having a secure border. David, how are the Democrats going to fare against Trump when he's literally saying, hey, I'm sending you resources to keep your city safe? And you got all these crazy Democrats going, oh, he's a dictator. He's doing this. They don't want to keep the fictitious Mrs. Johnson and Mrs. Smith safe in the city, apparently.
But Democrats don't care about Mrs. Johnson.
Yeah. Yeah.
They don't. I mean, they don't in Rochester, New York. They don't in Monroe County.
Yeah.
They don't care. They don't care in New York State. They care about criminals. They pander to criminals.
Yeah.
They don't give a crap about Mrs. Johnson.
Yeah.
If Mrs. Johnson gets robbed and killed, they don't care.
I got to be honest with you. This is such a losing issue for them because for those that don't know, it's only a 30-day window that the president can authorize this to go on, where he sends the military in, well, the National Guard, I should say, and he sends in the three-letter agencies. The interesting thing is it's a 30-day thing. After 30 days, he's got to present it to Congress, and they got to vote on it. People are saying they're not going to probably approve it, whatever. But at the end of the day, how do you not support a president that is trying to keep a major city, I call it a city, like District of Columbia, safe? I don't get it. I don't get it. That's like saying, hey, I'm starving. You brought me a steak. I really want a chicken parm. I don't understand it. They need help. These citizens in these areas need help. And you're getting help. And I'll tell you this right now, folks. I know I'm jumping around, but it just burns my balls. When I worked, a lot of I worked in some of the most ghetto, depressed areas of the city for my entire career. Okay. Bad. Literally, they're the places that you had nightmares about, or when you drive through them, you don't want to stop at a red light and you want to lock your doors and you're constantly looking around your shoulder. Those are the areas that I worked, and so did David. Okay. Our entire careers. When we had like gang war, turf war, David, fights, shootings, killings, stabbings, fights, gang fights, you name the violence. And RPD sent all their resources to a section like the one you worked at over on Jefferson Avenue or Genesee Street, or mine on the east side of the city, North Clinton Avenue, Conkey Avenue, Joseph Hudson. When they sent those resources over there, David, they would send our street crimes unit, they would send the TAC boys over. They would have our undercovers out there at night, buying dope, jumping out on people, whacking houses. At the end of the day, you tell me, David, when we worked those areas, when we had all the plethora of cops, that there wasn't less crime? There was nothing going on in the streets when we had flooded the area with multitudes of cops.
Well, not only did we flood it, but we flooded it with heavy proactiveness and aggression back criminals. It's the only thing I've ever seen in 23 years. You know, the kumbaya stuff, they're bringing, I've sat there and brought criminals in and did the scared straight crap where you're like,
Yeah, it's
oh,
all
this is what's going to
bullshit.
happen to you if you're bad.
Right.
The only thing a criminal understands is aggressiveness.
Right.
It's cops that chase you down, put you in handcuffs, lock you up, and if you fight, you get your ass beat.
Yeah.
That's what they understand.
Yeah.
That's when crime goes down.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, literally, when you're talking about the areas, David, that we worked in, you're 100% right, because you got to meet violence with violence. You got to meet aggression with aggression. There's no way you can be a street cop in the areas that we worked in without having that mentality of survival. And it's us versus them, not in a, okay, we hate you, we're going to do everything to put you in jail. But when you do bad against people that are victimized, we're coming after you. That's the us versus them. We're the thin blue line. We stand between the chaos, okay, and the good people.
And I always thought it was funny. They did that, supervisors, management, mayor, chief, they did that when they wanted to reduce crime in an area. And it was always funny, like, oh, you're going to turn me loose now in this area? But come next Thursday when like this window ends, then I got to go back to being officer friendly. Like it always was very laughable. I mean, I did it and I enjoyed it, but it was always like puppet master. Like, okay, go there and kick ass, and then next week come back and toot your horn and wave.
Yeah. So what David's talking about, and I'm gonna piggyback on what he's talking about. When they gave us the green light to be super aggressive towards the bad guys, towards
zero tolerance,
the people that made the neighborhoods horrible, okay? Those were the ones that we went after. We went after the dope dealers, the gun runners, the guys that had guns on their pockets. When the department said all gloves are off, we got to get control of these areas. When they said that, a week later, when everything died down because of the work that we did, if you did the same thing without the permission of these D-bag chiefs and commanders from the RPD, what would end up happening would be you're going to internal affairs now. Oh, the window has closed. The door has closed on your aggressive police work. Well, wait a minute. We were just doing this for the last 2 weeks here. Now you want me to turn it off? Because everything was politics back then, especially with the D-bag chiefs and the commanders in the RPD that were around in the late 90s, early 2000s.
I remember a certain captain telling me, that ended, you're back on the leash. Like I was a dog, like you're back on the leash.
Yeah.
We'll turn you loose when we want numbers down, but until then, you're back on the leash. Toe the line.
Yep. And listen, what we're talking about, I know we're going off on tangents. Folks, let me tell you how crime worked for cops that were aggressive, okay? When I say aggressive, we weren't doing anything illegal, okay? We were the ones that were keeping those neighborhoods safe, okay? We weren't aggressive, David, from the standpoint of we don't plant drugs, we don't do that's not what we do. Everything was above board. But the command structure back then, they were all on personal appearances. How did they look? Did they look bad? Oh, Johnny started a riot on Hudson Avenue. David started a riot on Jefferson Avenue. Oh, man, we got to look. Then what do? They drag us through the mud in internal affairs because
Johnny didn't have his hat on.
Yeah. Yeah. What a horrible I went through at least the first decade from day one of shitty leadership, from the chief all the way down to commanders and some captains. But that upper management, chiefs, deputy chiefs, commanders, almost all of them were horrific leaders in the RPD at that time. And you could tell them I said it if they're still alive, because they were horrible leaders. They did not do anything to foster any relationship with their quote unquote employees, hashtag cops. Okay. All they did was they wanted to look good in front of the ministers and the churches and all that stuff. And if you made them look bad, which making a dope arrest and a gun arrest, and oh, sorry, we had a fight with the guy, all of a sudden the mom made a complaint to the reverend went to the chief's office, made a complaint. Now there was a problem. Right, David?
Yeah, I mean, without saying, it was a hot and cold time. It was turn you loose, pull you back. If you do the same thing a week later, you're getting jammed up. You're told to lay down, quote, lay down. You know, it was a nightmare, but it was fun.
Exactly.
I still loved it.
Yeah, well, we were good at it. Sorry, that's the truth. Danny, what do you want us to get into next? You want us to talk about Obama and Comey and all that good stuff? You want to pop that on the screen right now? Folks, we're going to dive a little bit into politics right now after we got off our ghetto street cop soapboxes. Sorry, we went on some. Oh, look at the Washington Examiner, the same people that disclosed that the city.
That's Johnny's publication.
This might be my newspaper. So check this out, folks. Declassified emails show James Clapper, former intel agent, ordered intel agencies to compromise on normal procedures. This is where they were trying to sabotage Donald Trump for his incoming election, David. This is disgusting. This is going to blow up in the Dems' face.
Well, what's unbelievable is the paper trail that's coming out. Like, I understand that these individuals are head of intelligence agencies, but why would you ever communicate in this manner that even has the potential to come back and bite you in the butt?
Yeah.
You know, they're done. They are done. There's like 7 smoking guns I've seen already.
I know, right? So, folks, for those that are not following at home, what ended up happening was, and I'll give you a quick Cliff Note version. Obama, his administration, him specifically, had ordered the intel agencies like the CIA to basically try to set Trump up, saying that there was Russia collusion before the election, after the election. They try to dirty him up. They try to dirty his people up. They try to dirty his family up. And right now, because Trump is in power, he has access to all those confidential intel files. What they're finding, and they're going through and they're scrubbing all the documents. They're getting all the information. They're reading all this stuff, how Obama, how Hillary, how the heads of the intel agencies like James Clapper and James Comey from the FBI were trying to set Trump up and his staff. Right, David?
Yeah, and the key point that he did is he took a bogus intelligence report paid for by the Democratic Party and Hillary Clinton that he knew was BS.
Yeah.
And he influenced his intelligence agencies to use that bogus intel to then derive more investigations and give that bogus report validations based on his orders, and then leak it to the press to undermine Trump. So that was literally the treasonous act. Now, Obama's the ringleader, but he's basically, because he's president and an acting president can't be touched, he can't touch him. But Clapper, Brennan, Comey, Susan Rice, they're done.
Hillary.
Like Hillary, if they're indictable, all day.
Yeah, so basically the document they're talking about, they refer to it as the Steele dossier. It was paid for by a law firm called Perkins Coie, who is a huge supporter of the Democratic Party. It goes real deeper than what we're going to hit tonight, but follow it along, folks. It's going to be an interesting ride because at the end of the day, they were trying to set Trump up. And then what they did was they took the dossier, right? They took the Steele dossier. Steele was the intel guy from Britain, and they basically had a comprised story that they made up. They fed it to the British intel agencies. They do the Steele dossier. Then they loop it back to our intel people, who our intel were the ones who made it up in the first place. And then what they did was they used that dossier to start an intel op on President Trump, his staff, his administration, and his family. And why did they need that? Because they wanted to tap his phones. They used this information to tap his phones, to listen to his phone calls. This was total dirty pool.
And this is a crazy thing that people never touch on. As an investigator, do you know how clean Donald Trump is? If you're going out of your way to find anything to jam the guy up. If you told me as an investigator, you follow someone around and you do whatever it takes, even within the lines of legality, find anything, evading taxes, mortgage manipulation, money laundering, whatever, DWI, drugs. If I wanted you, I could get you. They couldn't touch him unless it was total BS. The guy doesn't even drink.
Yeah, the FISA warrants that they wrote, which was under the Federal Intelligence Surveillance Act, the FISA warrants that they wrote were based upon, the probable cause was based upon the Steele dossier that was invented by Obama's people. They fed it to the British intelligence, and then British intelligence fed it back to the United States. So that's how they were able to get these FISA warrants. Folks, David and I will tell you, and we have written local, state, federal warrants. We have participated in local, state, and federal warrant executions, thousands of them. It is very, very
and
difficult.
wiretaps.
It is very difficult.
We've tapped people's phones.
Right. It's very difficult to get a wiretap. It's difficult to get warrants on people. You have to basically tell the court a story on how you got there. And basically, these FISA warrants that they wrote, that they were asking to surveil President Trump or incoming President Trump, even afterwards, they lied. They used a dossier, and they also were utilizing tactics and techniques where they would feed information through their sources to the media, and then media would report on this, and they were all quote unquote anonymous sources, but they were using even anonymous sources from MSNBC, from CNN, from all the Democratic arm news outlets, mainstream media, to then fluff up their search warrant as probable cause, and get them signed. David, this is a travesty, man. This is bad.
Johnny, if you lied in an affidavit for a wiretap, if you lied in an affidavit for a search warrant, you'd be in prison.
Yeah.
You'd be in prison within a year.
Yeah.
Within a year, you'd be in prison.
Yeah.
That's how serious it is. They did this over and over and over. They got re-upped on wiretaps on Trump's campaign. A re-up is where you basically, you do a wiretap, but you have a certain amount of time, 30 days, where you have to show that there's, you got stuff. They're dirty. You got it. And you have to lay out that you got dirt. They were re-upping the FISA warrants. They didn't even have anything. They lied.
Yeah, with their BS intel. So what David's saying is, you can go up on somebody's phone for 30, 60 days, whatever the parameters are. But once that window of time is over with, you have to go back to the court and demonstrate, hey, judge, this is why we came to you in the first place. Now, David and I will tell you that we participated in wiretaps that we call an up and down wire, right? We thought we had something. We didn't. It's an up and down. We went up it 30 days later or 60 days later. It was down. Boom. We had nothing. We could not go back to the court and say, hey, they're a continual criminal enterprise. This is what we've gotten. This is what we learned in 30 days. Sometimes we didn't. So we had to shut the stuff down. Okay. At the end of the day, what David's talking about is these scumbags were going back to the court with more lies, with more filthy intel that they had created, but they filtered. It's almost like money laundering. They filtered the intel through their sources, and then we're now using that as probable cause to write their search warrants to say to the judge, see, judge, look how bad it is. And then the judge was signing these.
Right. It was no different than if I had an informant and I told my informant, John Smith's selling drugs. Go tell Johnny. And all of a sudden, John Smith calls Johnny and says, John Smith is selling drugs out of this house. And Johnny uses that in a warrant. And he knows that I gave John Smith the information. That's literally what they did. It was all made up.
Yeah. And then here's the crazy part. This is the crazy part. Once Trump lost in 2020, the crazy part is this, folks. They thought he had information from all this that we're talking about that he took from the intel community. They thought he had those documents at his home in Florida at Mar-a-Lago. That's why they're saying they executed what they refer to as Crossfire Hurricane to get those documents back. That's why they raided Trump's house. David and I have talked about it. David, you and I have talked about that raid. I'm telling you right now, in a former president's house who has Secret Service protection, they got a no-knock and they got permission not to wear police insignias on any of their stuff. I'm going to tell you why they did that. They did that because they were hoping that the Secret Service that were protecting Trump were going to get into a shootout with these people and dirty up Trump. That's what scumbags they are. They used the cover of darkness to raid his house. If you notice, it was early in the morning, I believe, or whatever you want to call it, late at night. But it was early in the morning. It was dark out. CNN was the only news agency. Apparently, they were there outside Mar-a-Lago, and all the agency, mainly the federal agency, FBI, raided it. And when they went in there, they did what we did to dope houses, David. They did a no-knock. They just entered without giving notice. It was disgusting. They could have killed his family.
And we've both done search warrants looking for documents and or money.
Mm-hmm.
Never did I get a no-knock warrant for documents or money.
Right.
Never.
Right.
It's a knock warrant. Yep. No way I could justify a no-knock warrant for documents and proceeds.
Right.
Nope. Never happened.
And I know David and I talk cop lingo a lot. We'll break it down for you quick. A no-knock warrant is when you used to see us dressed up like ninja guys. We had a warrant to execute at a house, had our masks on, had our black gear on, had our stuff emblazoned with cops. They knew we were cops. No knock means we could bust down the door without giving any kind of notice. The knock warrant is you have to knock. Hello, it's the police. Let us in. Knock. It's the police. Let us in. You have to give notice. So that's the difference between what we call a no-knock warrant and a knock warrant. What David's talking about is a profits and proceeds warrant. He's talking about documents and money. And basically, that stuff can't be flushed. So they would require us to do what they call a no-knock warrant and knock and present ourselves so nobody got hurt. And they did not do that at Mar-a-Lago, which is just as disgusting because he's a former president who is got his own personal security and it comes with Secret Service security. It's disgusting what they did to this guy. It really is, David.
And I've been saying it, with now a microphone in front of me, but I've been saying it since it happened. Even the day it happened, I couldn't believe that they got that type of a warrant served on a former president with boxes of documents. Like, where are they going?
Right.
How are they getting destroyed?
Yeah.
And they're going through Melania's panty drawer. Yeah. Just they're searching in Melania's panty drawer. Like they were just messing with the guy left and right.
Yep.
Total setup.
Yeah, they're scumbags. They're scumbags from way back, man. And listen, Obama, who everyone wants to say, oh, he's such a that guy is the biggest, dirtiest dude. And like I say, man,
devil.
We vote policies. We don't vote people. I voted. Listen, I got no problem sharing with our audience. I think I already have on the live show. I was an Obama voter. I'm like, okay.
First term, I voted for him.
So I was like, hey, man, you know what? Let's see what changed. Let's be the change. Let's do this. I voted for the effing guy. And I think there was a lot of people that did. At the end of the day, what it comes down to is you're like, whoa, what is this guy all about? And now you're seeing his true colors. You're seeing exactly the type of guy he is. A dirty politician. As long you can't put that guy out there, and you can't for 30 seconds. If you put him with aggressive interview people, people with tactics who know how to talk to people and extract information from him, they will talk that dude out of his pants. I'm telling you that right now, David.
Every time I
Talk about
see
Obama.
Obama, I remember the quote. The greatest trick the devil ever played was convincing the world he didn't exist.
Yeah.
Every time I see that snake, I think of that quote.
Yeah.
That's the eyes of the devil.
Yeah, he's 100% a scumbag. And listen, I hate to say that about a former president. I will say that in America. I would never say it out of America because he's our scumbag. You know what I mean? We got to own all of our guys. But at the end of the day, it's like, what the F? This thing is going to grow legs, folks. If you haven't followed the story, follow it. It's an interesting one. Basically, our CIA, our intel agencies were working behind the scenes to literally take out Donald Trump. Yeah,
Conspired. It was a conspiracy.
100% it was a conspiracy. Whew, David, it was a quick one. It was a long one. Welcome back to the Rock. You were away on vacay with your beautiful family, wifey, and the children's. It's good to have you back in studio.
Good to be back
at your home studio. We appreciate everything you did for us the last year and a half, David. Me and Danny Agnew and you have been riding deep. So listen, folks, we hope you liked the live show, the live stream. We hope you stick with us for future live streams. Thanks for listening to the Crime Dawg live stream. Stick with us for future episodes every Wednesday night at 9:30. But like my brother Frankie Grassi says, if you can't make it, who cares?
Hoorah.